What's up everyone, it's Nick, and in today's video I'm going to show you 3 ways to sound design loops. I'm going to be using Ableton and FL Studio. However, all these techniques are applicable in most DAWs. The first way we're going to sound design loops is by chopping them, pitching them, and reversing, or as I like to say, CPR. So I have a short drum pattern here that's supporting this decap piano loop. Let's take a listen. Cool, so this first technique just involves chopping up the audio on the arrangement, reversing some of the audio, and pitch shifting the audio. I would also maybe argue you can stretch the audio as well. So the first way we can start chopping is using the slice tool. Simply hit C and then click and drag where you want to start slicing. Notice if I start shortening it, it's going to shorten all the slices. We can actually avoid this by simply going to the action menu and saying make unique. And that way this one slice is now its own individual clip. So maybe doing this, make unique. And you can also hit the M. Notice the underline is under the M. That means that's the shortcut to make unique. So that's how we can chop and stretch a little bit. If I actually just want to chop and shorten and not stretch in FL, I'm simply just going to hit Shift M, and that's going to turn off the stretch icon here. So Shift M will then we're going to go the make unique action and then double click. We can now try pitching this maybe 1 octave up. To reset the pitch, I can right click on the parameter and hit R for reset. Let's try reversing this one. So to reverse, we're going to just M for make unique, and then we can reverse this one. And I think I hear this one specifically. I'm going to hit C for the slice tool. And what we're going to do is hear this one specifically. Just go make unique. Up 1 octave. So 1 octave's 1200 cents or 12 semitones. That might have been a little too aggressive, so maybe I'm going to try 1 octave lower, see how that sounds. I'm going to reset this quickly by using the delete tool and just using this as the original loop here. So one thing I really like about FL Studio is that it has these kind of preset chops. And if you go to, again, the action menu here, and we go to the chop, they have some presets here. I like tries, say, marching and do maybe a 16th loop. Let's hear another one. Maybe a complex stutter. And then I can go in here again and make certain patterns unique and reverse them, which is cool. Cool, so that's chopping, pitching, and reversing, and a little stretching in FL Studio. Let's take a look at how we do that in Ableton. So here we have the same kind of beat setup with the same loop. In Ableton, we can move the arrangement locator where we want to start chopping and then use Command E to make the chop. And if we start reversing using R, also try shortening it, and then in Ableton to stretch, if you hover on the end of the clip and then hold shift, that will then switch to stretch mode. It's really stretched out. But if we switch to beats and then go to this preserve, and then say maybe preserve the 8th note and set it to this stop mode, the off, or maybe the loop forward mode. Maybe try pitching by double clicking and transposing here. We can maybe do, like, again, 12 semitones is an octave. That's good. And maybe mess with the formants here. So again, in Ableton, the important commands were Command E to make a slice, using shift at the end of a clip to stretch it, changing the pitch by double clicking on the clip and going to the transpose. So that was the first method. That was chopping, pitching, reversing, and sometimes stretching. So let's take a look at the second way we can sound design loops, and that's by using a sampler and slicing the loop to the sampler. In FL Studio, the sampler that's really good for slicing these samples is the Splice X. We can always go in and add it manually here. However, I think the fastest way is when you double click on the audio and then right click here in the waveform, you'll see the option to open a new Splice X channel. So here's the Splice X device, and let's just take a look at how that's going to sound. So the Splice X device detects the transients and maps each little slice to each transient. So now if I use this keyboard, I can control the length easily by moving these markers. Let's zoom in and get some nice slices. Once you've arranged how the slices should map out to either your keyboard or the piano roll, you can then maybe put in a pattern. So let's go ahead and just put in a new pattern. So that's a good start. We'll use Command B to get it across. So now let's take a look at how we would do this method in Ableton. And in Ableton, we can actually just right click on the clip and just say slice to new MIDI track. It's also going to just do it by the transient. And so we'll say, okay. In a similar fashion, it will lay out the MIDI to recreate the audio as is. And it's the same kind of process as far as we can go into the drum rack here, which is this device. We can go into each slice and kind of control the length. I can zoom out by clicking and dragging up or down. The other method to do this in Ableton is if you use the simpler, and if we put in simpler and drag the audio directly into the simpler, the slice mode in simpler is actually a really nice way to do this. because we can actually adjust the sensitivity, which will kind of automatically add and remove slices as we go up and down in sensitivity. The other thing we can do is right click on that, and once we've found a nice sensitivity, we can use that to kind of dictate how it's sliced to a drum rack. So we can say slice to drum rack, and then this will turn into just these 7 slices. And we can kind of put in some kind of pattern similarly. So hit B for pencil mode. So again, that was our second method to creatively manipulate samples, and that is by taking the sample, putting it into a sampler instrument, and slicing it using that sampler instrument. So the third technique to sound design loops is to use specialized plugins. Obviously, there are a lot of audio effects that can really drastically change the sound of these loops. However, in this video, I actually wanted to focus in on some of my favorite plugins that are really sequence-based and really thrive when working on like longer forms of audio, like loops and full songs. So the first plugin I wanted to highlight was Nuxx, and that is developed by Audiair. You can actually get that on Splice Rent to Own, and we'll have the link at the top right of the screen. So let's take Nuxx and add it to our track here. And as you can see, a big part of it is the step sequencer. We actually don't have to look at that right off the bat. And if we just go to one of maybe these presets, let's just take a listen. Maybe we'll put it on guitars. Or stutter and glitch. That one's very interesting. Let's try maybe reverb. Now, the reason these work really well with loops is that because of the sequencer, I can kind of like map out the parameters as we go through either the 32 beats here. So say I wanted to maybe take the mix and play with it. I'll just make sure that it's following this here, and I can kind of step sequence. Or if I want more detail, I can open up the sequencer. We also have preset shapes where we can just kind of go in and decide something preset. So the second plugin I wanted to look at was Effectrix by Sugarbytes, and it's similar in the sense that it's very sequence-based. Let's take a look at some of the presets. It's really fun because we can just double click where we want the effect to turn on, and you can see where we have the effects here. So we want that crush to happen right maybe on the second part of the phrase. Now if that's too much, we can always take the mix down here. The vinyl is really fun because those tape stops can really sound nice on a loop. The third and last plugin I wanted to highlight is called Turnado, and it's also made by Sugarbytes. While it's not step sequence based, it's really good for larger pieces of music like loops because it's got these 8 like macro knobs and this one dictator knob that can really just rapidly change the sound and sound design of it. So let's take a listen to some of the presets. So each of these 8 effects can be swapped out, and you can go in and edit to your heart's desire. But I really like it just because how rapidly you can get different sounds. So I've used the configure option here to map the controls to this MIDI controller. And we can just try playing with the knobs in real time to maybe manipulate the loop. So that might sound like this. Awesome. So those were just 3 techniques to sound design your loops. There are plenty of others that we didn't get to mention in this video. For example, we could have used a vocoder and like taken the drum sound and vocoded it through the piano. We could have also maybe used the harmony to MIDI feature in Ableton, where we could have extracted the MIDI notes from that piano loop. Let us know your favorite technique on manipulating loops and sound designing them in the comments, so that way we can continue the learning. Make sure you subscribe to our channel for more production videos and tutorials. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching. I'll see everyone next time.